Okay, so I know I keep saying this. This is definitely going to be the last episode, unless obviously a new update or anything comes out. So hey, I'm Kloo, and welcome to Small So Dungeon. So I think for this one, we're just going to look at all 5 of my different comps. Obviously my main progression comp, and then what I use for farming and grinding out, say, battle credits and gold, and then also the scripts. Before that, I've just passed 1 million. I've spent a day grinding out 1.5 million battle credits, and we're just going to convert this all into gold. So I'm just going to do like 10,000 floor bursts with my gold comp team, and then after that, we'll pump our relics. Hopefully I get to the point where I can just leave it till 10 mil, and yeah, then we'll go through the comps. 10k at a time. Oh, it's going to take forever. And we're all done. So yeah, so I've been doing it in 100,000 lots. Just taking the gold each time, converting into essence, and then pumping up the gold relic. So it's at 2 mil, far above everything else. So I think we'll just go through my 5 different comps, and then I'll dump the gold, pump the relics, and that'll probably be it. Because I'm just gonna hopefully leave it for ever till we get to 10 mil. Okay, so first up, the progression comp. So this is what I've been using to push for the most part. So I have the Wizard in 1 without the Sword of Space and Time. And the reason for this is I'm using the Wizard to keep up Flotile 100% of the time. Because we're maximizing cooldown reduction, this enables the Wizard to essentially unlock back-to-back warping. So when you get a warp, you warp. Sorry, when you cast Flotile, you get a warp on the next stage, and then another warp shows up. It's a very fringe event, but it can obviously help, and during a longer run, it's something to aim for, so I just thought I'd cover all bases. And then we have the Janitor, so he's just one-tapping, making sure we get procs on the Sword in Space and Time, since it is either a net zero or a gain overall in frames. And then the Tavern Owner cleans up with the Phantasmal Claw, and then this Huntress is specifically for one type of room. And although it doesn't look any different, the room I'm talking about is when you get a double enemy 1 or node room. So the optimal way to clear this room is for the Janitor to strike 1 enemy, and then the other enemy to be struck again. The way a lot of scripting works is that's very hard to sort of target specifically. The only way I've managed to get around it is through the use of defend. So the Janitor will attack with Sword in Space Time. This Tavern Owner will actually defend, and then this Huntress has a specific script just to attack non-ore, meaning that in those rooms, the Huntress will clear it in 2 strikes, which is, it's very minor. It's a single frame quicker than just using Phantasmal Claw and a strike from the Sword in Space and Time. Next up, we have our Boss Rush comp, and I've gone over this one before. It's not my comp, it is the highly optimized comp by 6+9, and I've got full uranium plating, which is the best. You don't need it, you can get around it through the use of, I think it's not platinum, silver, for extra crit damage, but you do need uranium on the uranium rods, so that the Blade Masters hit, I think, 120% crit is what you need to guarantee crits on the bosses. For whatever reason, they have a invisible stat reduction for crit, and it's also why they run the Crackshot gems. So, highly optimized. The only thing I've changed is the Bi-Blade, so I'm using this for a bit of extra reflection damage. You don't need the regen from the Tuna Blaster. The Tavern Owner doesn't take enough damage to essentially die off before any of the other units. And then we have my mining comp, which I've shown up before. I'm only using 4 miners for a very specific reason. It maximizes the souffle stacks of the chef. So the chef souffle stacks to 5. By using 4 miners, it guarantees that on, say, uranium ore, the chef will always get to full 5 stacks. Granted, this is very hard to optimize because you don't have enough of the food resources. The best way to utilize it is obviously in between progression, where you have a huge amount of food stacked up and you can obviously maximize souffle. I have swapped back to frying pans instead of uranium rods. My ore find is close to 1,000. With uranium, you can get over 1,000 easily. I also had uranium plating on the frying pans. I took it off for my item farm comp, which I don't really need anymore, but it's worth showing off and it's completely optimized, so I've kept the plating on it for now, using full Geo Gems. I'm not too sure if it's better on the Janitor. What do we go up to? Okay, so yeah, you do want to use just Geo Gems on everyone. It does work out to more, but I'm still missing one, unfortunately. Then we have my item farm. Okay, so this is where I used to grind out the last of the relics. This, at least from a survival standpoint, is the most optimized you can get for item find. So my item find is a whopping 1,218. With this, I was getting roughly 1 mythic every hour, which is a really good rate. It used to be like 1 every 3 hours with my old comp, so this really helped me just complete the collection log and find the remaining few armors for my sets. So obviously everyone has anything that gives item find. I'm using Blade Masters instead of anyone else because 2 of the Shiver Baron staves are better than using a shield with, say, the treasure gem or just a treasure shield in general. I even think you'd be better off, where is it? I know that gives item find, I know that gives item find. There was, it's a shovel, isn't it? Yeah, this, which has 28 item find, which is close, you just miss out on the slot. So if I was to ever, say, do a rebuild, I would use this exact comp, except instead of the Shiver Baron staff, I would make the treasure shovels. Armor, obviously, uranium is probably the best up until you get a full extinction plate set, since extinction plate does give item find. And then gem slots, maximized completely. Again, it really helps. And then the last comp is obviously my gold farm comp. So you can get a higher amount of gold find through the gold plating. I don't have enough slots because a lot of my gear is used in other comps. For instance, the bit blades are used in my boss rush, and then the shields are used in my, not my progression comp, my ore find comp, I think it is. So you can get slightly higher. I think I got to 2.6 instead of 2.3. It doesn't make a substantial difference, especially late in the game. At this point in the game, relics just give the most gold by far. The multiplier does help, but my understanding is the multiplier occurs before the gold find stat, meaning whatever their base amount drop is, that gets doubled and then it gets multiplied by the gold find, rather than it getting multiplied by the gold find and then of course doubling in this case. It's not as impactful as just pumping the gold relic. I'm also using the Gravedigger shovel with maximum uranium. I really wish they made uranium trinkets. It would have a lot of use, and this just gets it up to, what is it, 0.77 multiplied to enemy stats. So this works as a percentage multiplier, meaning even though it says 0.77, it's not, it's 1.77. So it does increase their difficulty, but obviously it increases the amount of gold they drop. Again, I would assume that both of these multipliers go before gold find, from my findings at least, meaning they're irrelevant later in the game. In fact, you'd probably just want a full clear comp with as much, of the gold find relic as you can. Optimizing these other items doesn't really matter. This, like in the late game, early game definitely, but early game you're not going to have the gear. Obviously, you can substitute a lot of things. The labradorite talismans, unfortunately, you won't be able to get until very late game, which kind of sucks because there's nothing else that really gives a multiplier. The clovers are the percentage, so it's not significant. Actually, the curious, no, because you would have to get up to, what is it, 2,000%? You'd have to get up to an extra 2,000% from items to make it better than buffing the gold multiplier. Other than that, I guess I'll go over scripts quickly. They're pretty much just see an enemy, kill an enemy. The only really complex one is my progression comp, which I'll swap back to. But anyway, I'll dump the gold, and then I guess we'll just go over the scripts quickly. So I've tried to cut down to as minimal as I can, though I don't have any way to really show it. I've had a helpful discussion with Sub-Zero, one of my commenters. Frame rate, for me at least, I think is impacted by the amount of scripts you have and the amount of lines. The game trying to do that calculation before every fight or before every unit goes must have an impact on FPS. When I just had my one script, no other scripts, I easily got to 240. Since adding the extra scripts during the dungeon progression, I haven't been able to get past around 235, which does actually really impact your FPH. Obviously, you're cutting out whatever it is, 5 out of 240 animations. So, sorry, not animations, frames. So it does impact, but I need at least 3 scripts to actually make the comp function the way I want. So we'll just start off with the wizard. Very simple. If there's an ally whose HP is less than 25%, he's going to defend, so this cancels out foretelling and allows you to find healing fairies. Then we just have enemy any foretell. This essentially ensures that the wizard will always cast foretell as soon as it's off cooldown, and then I'm having him defend whenever he's not casting foretell. So the wizard no longer actually helps clear or interact, and my belief is that the extra portals you can pick up through having foretell 100% of the time counteracts the amount of frames you lose for defending. I still need to really test it, but at least for now this is the comp I'm going with. Then I just have my 1 script. The only thing you really need to be concerned with is enemy is an ore is default attack. For progression, this is all that the janitor and the huntresses are using. For my gold comp, the enemy team alive, Phantasmal Claw, is the only thing that's really impactful there. For ore, you're just looking at transmutes, and then again, the attack. This position 6 defend ensures that the janitor in the ore comp doesn't actually attack any ore, and therefore doesn't affect the magma souffle stacks. Other than that, it's pretty routine. I could probably actually get rid of Root Cleanse. I don't use the mop anymore, or the cleansing wand, not even in boss rush. I think that's the bare minimum, and then just taunting for whenever I use the blacksmith. Then, of course, we have Unit 3. This is the significant script. So essentially, in 3, I have my Tavern Owner. He has a Phantasmal Claw. If there's 2 enemies alive, so that means the janitor has used Sword in Space Time on a 3 or 4 pod, and now there's 2 plus enemies left, he's going to use Phantasmal Claw. That's the quickest way to clear those types of rooms. In the case of the rooms I was talking about before, where there's 2 enemies and 1 ore node, the janitor will use the Sword in Space Time to clear 1 enemy, and now there's 1 enemy, 1 ore node left. You don't want to use Phantasmal Claw, you want to strike. That is the quickest way to clear the room. The only way I can get that to happen is by having this unit defend, and then the Huntress in 4 actually strike the last enemy. So greater than 2, he's going to use Phantasmal Claw. If there's an ore unit, and less than 2 because they work in a chain, then he's going to defend and move on to the Huntress. In the case of a 3 enemy room that doesn't have an ore node, janitor will clear 1 and there's 2 enemies left, which means that he will not defend because there's no ore, and will use Phantasmal Claw to clear the last 2 enemies, making that room cleared in the most optimal fashion. Then, just for safety's sake, is an ore default attack. This is for 2 enemy rooms, so it goes through no 3, no 2, just 1, default attack. This enables my comp to essentially clear every room as optimal as possible. I did have a previous script that functioned the same way, but with the wizard in 2, so alternating between foretell and clearing. That was a bit more complex because you need 3 sets, because you need a script where the wizard foretells and then the Tavern Owner and the Huntress share that mechanic of figuring out if there's an ore node, and then you need one where the wizard detects if there's an ore node in the case he's not foretelling, and then defaults to the Tavern Owner striking, which was a lot more complex. Hopefully, testing proves that this comp is competitive or better, and then I don't have to worry about resetting that up. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the scripts. I guess I will just pump up my relics and then let it go. Okay, I really wish there was greater than 1,000 plus, because this is a nightmare. And this is just health. So I have to do the character relics and whatever else I deem. So I'm just using the ratio Sub-Zero gave me. So health, half of gold, and then the class relics will be 1/5 of health. Well, oops. And the worst possible one as well. Oh, I just dumped it all in vape. That was the last one too. I was being OCD. I had to get them all to 200,000. Not just, obviously, the wizard, huntress, janitor, and tavern owner. And, oh, I misclicked. Oh well. I guess I can't really bump anything else. I guess I could do one more boss rush run, I guess, and then up these a little. I don't know how important they are. I would like to get everything sorted before I try to push. I'll think about it. But anyway, we'll probably end this one there then. Yeah, that's what my relics look like. What do you reckon? Will it get me to 10 mil? Hopefully. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you have any other game suggestions, I am looking for another idle game. Obviously, this one is sadly done. Anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.